Excel, you're going to want to invest or search out for a quick reference guide. I've listed the following address, which is a good quick reference. Now for the Reach Data spreadsheet template that we're including, it contains columns for each variable of the Reach data sets, and it's structured to include up to 100 clients. And the formulas are already in place to average out to um, the means, the scores that you're needed for pre and post. And then the names of the variables, the root name for each variable is indicated for each question from when you look on the data dictionary and match it up to the actual spreadsheet. And the structure of data sets within the spreadsheet starts with the baseline data. And the root name for the baseline data would have a V1 at the end of the variable names. And then for the post data, a V2 would be at the end of the variable names for post data. And then for the first columns, the key identifier it lists the key identifiers and demographic variables. And then you'll start on your first data collection variable, which is health V1. And then the next one would be health compare V1. And then the last ones would be the CSD and difficulty, and then GDS variable. This is the list of the following data sets you'll be working with. You have the caregiver questionnaire, which contains 7 demo questions and questions related to caregiver self-reported health, care receiver behavior, and vigilance. Question number 8 on the caregiver questionnaire is the outcome that we want to get for pre and post scores, are the mean scores for, is the general health question. And then you have the risk priority inventory, which is 22 questions. And then you have the zero burden scale, which is 12 questions. Health and human behaviors, 8 questions. Desire to institutionalize, 6 questions. Behavior checklist is 36 questions. And the CSD 10, which is the depression scale, which is 10 questions, and so on. Now we're going to look at each individual data instrument as it pertaining to how you're going to be collecting that data. Now the first one is the general health section of the caregiver questionnaire. As I mentioned, question number 8 is the outcome that we want to look at for pre and post scores. And the variables are listed in the spreadsheet as health V1 and then health V2 for the post scores that you want to incorporate in the spreadsheet. And then the formula for that column in the spreadsheet is set average formulas, and they're already set for pre and post mean scores. So all you would have to do is just plug in your site's data into that, and it'll automatically calculate the mean score up to 100 clients. The next scale that we want to look at is the zeroed burden section of the risk priority inventory. The variables are listed as B1 TOTV1 and BITOTV2 as pre and post in the spreadsheets. The zeroed burden measures subjective burden among caregivers of adults with dementia. It contains 12 items which caregivers is asked to endorse using a 5-point scale. And response options range from 0, which is never, to 4, which is nearly always. And it is very important to understand what those scores mean. A score of 17 or higher reflects high burden and high risk within that caregiver. Now, the desire to institutionalize section of the risk priority inventory, the variables are listed as desire to, and then INST, TTL, and then V1. The same thing with the post test in the spreadsheet. Now, the desire to institutionalize is a 6-item self-report inventory that quantifies stages in considering nursing home placement, ranging from discussion with family or friends about care recipient placement to actually applying for placement. And the response options range anywhere from 0, which is never, to 4, nearly always. And then for questions 1 and 4. For questions 5 and 6 is actually ranged differently, which 4 would represent yes, and 0 would represent no. The behavior problem section of the risk priority inventory is a 36 item informant report. It measures observable behavior problems in dementia patients. The caregiver lists of the behavior problem has occurred within the past week, and they would answer either yes or no. Then rates the reaction of how much it bothers the caregiver to the behavior problems in a scale ranging from 0 to 4, with 0 representing not at all to 4 extremely. If no, the code 99 must be used as an entry for that response. In the spreadsheet, I have columns that includes the variable listing BP and then the number and then V1 or V2. And then in the spreadsheet, the last columns for that part would include a BP average and a BP number total. Now for the BP average, we'll incorporate average if formula for the reaction scale rating of how much it bothered them, excluding 99s. So I included a formula already set that will add up the total number of the reaction score and excluding the ones that they said that no, it didn't bother them, which is 99s. And then I also incorporate an count if formula for the BP number total, which will count the number of problem behaviors that have occurred within the past week and excluding those 99s. And then what you're going to want to do is calculate the average of the following columns, which is BP average, BP number total, compare the mean of pre and post outcome scores, and you're going to want to look for a decrease in BP average and the decreased BP number total from pre to post. And the next section would be the CSD10 section, which measures depression. The variables are listed as CSD, TOT, V1 and 2. The Center for Epidemiologic Studies Short Depression Scale is a 10-item questionnaire that screens for depression in older adults. The caregiver indicates how often they have felt or behaved this way during the past week. Response options range from 0, rarely or none of the time, less than 1 day, to 3, all of the time, 5 to 7 days. And once you get the total scores, a score of 10 or higher is considered depressed. Now for handling missing data, the goal is to minimize missing information. As I recommended, you might want to leave the field blank, which will come better come analysis time. You also may want to keep track of in a separate spreadsheet or with the attached spreadsheet the reasons for missing data for each client. Database submission for RCI, we do monthly reporting and it's due on the 1st. Monthly review to evaluate outcomes to see if changes need to be made. I highly recommend that schedule. Is worked well for the RCI and for managing our data. We also have our sites submitted via email or via third-party center like Dropbox. Sometimes when you're working with large amounts of data, the file size can be too large, so that's when a third-party sender software like Dropbox works well. It's free to use, and it works well with large size files. If you need to contact me, I'm available at the RCI. The best way to reach me is via my email, angel.ramos@gsw.edu. Thank you.